Hey everybody, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball.
GameSevenBaseball.com.
Boom, nailed it.
That's my .com.
We're winding down the season. I think just a couple weeks left of the fall season. It's been nice. The weather's been great. I think this has been one of the better fall seasons I've seen in a long time. It's been real mild temperatures, not real cold, not a lot of rain. It's been really nice. So I'm glad that's happened. Teams have got out and got to play. And Game 7 Baseball's got a couple left. If you're interested still yet in getting some baseball in, go to Game7Baseball.com. Get your team in. Simple as that. We'll have Dave. Yeah, we'll have Dave back on the show in November, always giving us some updates. And, oh, shoot, I forgot to do it. Oh, never mind. We'll do it next time. Any hoozle, welcome into the show. My cohort on the old youth baseball talk, Mitch Thomas. Mitch, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's funny that you talk about the weather because, obviously it's so dry right now. As an outdoorsman, you're seeing a lot of water down and we're starving for some water in the fields. And it's funny that today is opening day of districts in high school softball and it's raining. And it's like we've spent this whole fall with just beautiful weather. Teams are still able to get outside regular basis. And then here we got opening day of districts and it's just going to, why not? Softball gods, here we go. Let's deal with adversity.
Bummer.
As a high school coach, and understanding this, it's one of those things. It's like, why now? Why couldn't it have been last week, or 3 weeks ago? But everybody got their games in, so they should be fully prepared. And what's an extra day of practice to get ready? And I'm not even sure they'll cancel the games. It's just a little nasty weather outside, but maybe not nasty, but we haven't had this. And so I've been fortunate enough to be able to get outside where in the past we haven't been able to do that, So this has been fantastic weather as far as athletes go. For football, it hasn't been too hot. It's been great.
Also, this past weekend, dude, I went down to Fenton, Champions Village. Rick Benz, Sal McGee, they own Prime Sports, the sporting goods store within that, and they were having a bat demo. And, man, the place was packed. People in there, of course, checking out the new bats. Rick Benz gave me a tour of the facility around there. I'll tell you what, it was really nice. They are stocked, baseball pants. It is everything baseball. If I know it might be, it's not that bad a trip right down 141 or 270. It's not that far. It's not a bad trip down there. If you're looking for something on hand. And I'm a guy, I like to shop local. You may pay a little bit more, but you know what? This is our community. I'm always for those things. I try to shop local here in the community with those types of things. It's difficult. It's really difficult at times. Because trying to find something, right? And but
Absolutely.
The more we can do it, I think the better off we are, and the opportunities are there for us to shop local. But it was fun. Rick gave me a quick tour. Got to talk with I met his wife Beth, and we were chatting it up. And Jake McGee. Commit. I talked to him a little bit. He's going through his rehab on his Tommy John surgery. It's going well for him. Had a great time. Talked to some people out there. Hopefully, Mitch, I think it'd be cool. Get a hold of Rick, go down there, maybe do a bat demo on the show. Right?
Let's do it.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, bat demos are something that we've done in the past as well at the hitting zone, and it gets people to identify where you're at. I mean, I don't know where Champions Village is. I know that it's around, but I don't know exactly where that's at. So there's only a handful of brick and mortar stores left, and so if there's an opportunity where a kid needs some baseball pants and doesn't want to go to Walmart and find two sizes too small or some elastic around the ankles, they only got Fishers and probably, I guess, Champions Village, because I don't know anywhere else. Maybe Academy and the big box stores do, but I would much rather shop at a Fishers or a Champions Village and support a small business owner than to Academies makes enough money.
and remember, the
champion.
Champions Village is the actual facility, the cages and all that. It's Prime Sports. That I'm not trying to be, but just
nope.
So people know.
You said it. I just didn't pay it. I just associate everything in Champions Village as Champions Village. So, I mean, you said it. I just probably didn't listen.
So I appreciate Rick taking the time out of his moment there, because he had all kinds of people taking the time walking me through the facility. It was a lot of fun. And hopefully I'd love to do that. I think we should try. So Rick, I'll catch up. Anywho, we got our subject today. One of my favorite subjects. I love talking about this because I think it's the crux of youth baseball. I think it's where a lot of the issues that we find within teams and the movement and all the stuff, this is really where it sits in my estimation. And we're coming up, we're ending fall here, and teams are going to start classifying themselves. They'll be registering for the spring season, whether it be Game 7, USSSA, Triple Crown, Super Series, whatever the case may be. I don't know how many of them are all out there. But this is where I think we've got to, I think, change the culture a little bit. This is my opinion. You can say you're wrong, whatnot. Comment below. We want to hear from you. Tell us what you think. Please. We'd be happy to listen. Right, Mitch?
Oh, yeah. I mean, where else am I going to get material to debate any kind of these, comments? Because, I mean, that at the end of the day, this is what it's about, is having perspective on what our athletes are and what we're doing out there to these kids at a young age, and trying to identify or put a label on a kid. And, maybe not this young.
And so I'm going to read through some things here classification wise. And this is where we are at this point. And this is just a fundamental basis, starting with Game 7 classifications, 4 classifications. Recreational level is A. Most people don't want to be classified A. They go, oh no, we're not. And you are. And that's the trouble, is I see a recreational level team classified AA, and they're not. And it's really difficult. AA is classified by Game 7 as middle level travel team, a middle level travel team, limited travel schedule. A AAA is upper level travel teams. Major is elite travel team. Now, before you say anything, Mitch, I'm going to go to USSSA because they have theirs on here as well. A major division is top competitive teams in the country. AAA division is middle of the pack competitive teams. AA is teams that have restricted rosters, drafted players, or play at the recreational level. And A division is recreational league teams only. I want to start there, and then I'm going to go over to baseball youth, and I'm going to read a couple things because they have Division I, Division II, and Division III, and they do that a little differently in this respect. But let's look at this, and I think this is the classifications here, I think, are done the best that these groups can do. Honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
What
they're
else you
giving
going to
you kind
say?
of, yeah, they're giving you a guideline. And if parents are looking this, and they should be saying, okay, well, that's what our group is. We play mostly local. We're not winning a bunch of games. This is what we should do. And I believe in success. Being able to go out there and compete. The success isn't the win and loss. It's to be able to go out there and play the game of baseball with somebody else that is like your team. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to be a recreational kid classifying as a double A just to snag a couple kids off the out in the community to come play for me just because I want to snag a couple kids. You have to start somewhere. And so your selling point shouldn't be we're a double A team. Here's what we are. Here's what we're going to do to get to that level. That's how we should be selling it as coaches. But that information's out there. Read it, understand it, and identify what our athletes are competitive wise. And maybe it's a lot easier to breathe as a parent, saying that it's we're 8 years old, it's okay to be rec level. We're 10 years old, it's okay to be a single A team, whether you play U trip or their classifications between U trip and game 7. I look at this stuff as information. And who are we? There's 10-year-old teams that do travel nationally.
Hmm.
They should be playing in a single A tournament, double A tournament, nor
I
should be allowed.
Yeah, and I have no problem traveling. Teams travel. That's fun. It can be fun, and we should make it fun. We should make it entertaining. Take a vacation. I know people like. It was funny. I was talking with a few people as far as vacations at that time. It's usually kind of tough and whatnot, but some people like doing it. Some people don't. Choose what you want to do and set your schedule. Take a break in the middle. Maybe get away from the game. Take a break in the middle of the summer and go on vacation and then come back. And I think maybe it takes a little bit of the exhaustion, for lack of a better way to put it, away from a long season. Some people, that's what they love. Go do. I think we try to put everything into one basket instead of setting these things in place as the team, talking as a team, being a team this way, and setting those things in place as we move through. And in my estimation, this is what I believe. And I believe this very much. I wish we would quit classifying 8 and 9U teams in this way. Let the tournaments be open. The tournament directors just put all the teams in together. You're going to find out as a coach real quick how to classify your team when you get to 10U.
Absolutely. And what I like about what, specifically, and again, I'm speaking on game 7 because that's what I played last year mostly. If there is an open tournament and you have 10 8U teams or 10 9U teams, at the end of the day, what's happening? They're going to take the top bracket and they're going to play them in a gold bracket. Then you're going to have a silver bracket. Just because you're gold and silver doesn't mean you're inferior. It just means that's where your level should be. And here comes the competition. You have one game, and so what? You made it in the silver. You know what I mean? And maybe they have one good arm and they made it in the gold bracket, and they realize, oh, I'm not deep enough to play in gold brackets. And so what these tournament providers are doing, I see this in other tournaments as well, just not game 7, but I'm only giving my experience. And so we've been in those tournaments where we've been in the bottom side of the bracket because we did not compete well enough up top. And we had a chance to at least come out as a consolation winner. Mm-hmm. However you want to take that is fine. But at the end of the day, I found out that I wasn't prepared to compete with double A teams. I was compared, the bottom end of it I was competing with. So I needed that. I needed that as a coach. We needed that as a team to identify who we were and how to work to get into those different brackets. And being open at 8 and 9U, you can find that. And so that's exactly what you're saying is that you will find out real quick on what you need to be at 10U. It doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It doesn't mean you're a bad team. It just means that's what you are, level of play. And at 12U, you might go through 11U and be really good at a double A team or a single A team. You're going to have to move up. By the time you're 12U, you could be a major team. You could be a triple A team. You know, you don't have to sell this pipe dream to parents because you want to make your organization or team look good. Compete, find out where you belong. Those kids will probably get more out of it right then and there.
And the key to all of this, and why I think the classification part of it should be this style of movement, is what are we doing to prepare these kids to make their high school team? How are we helping them with their development? What level of talent are they? What talent level are you? And if you want to increase your ability, what do you need to do to work on that? This is what we should be doing. The game should be fun. The game should be to go out and play and to do. And you put in the work when you have the time, when you have those off moments at practice, you put in the work and go and enjoy the game, compete, and do the best you can to put yourself in a position to have an opportunity to win a game. That's all. That if I want to start really presenting this thought process, because I think this is what we're missing in youth sports, period.
Yeah, fun. You know, it's I always go back to it and think about when I was a kid playing recreational baseball, and I played at ABC in St. Anne area, over by the airport. And I can remember getting done with games, and you know, the parents would fundraise for the year and get your pizza and your popsicle and our ice cream cone and a soda. You know, you get $3 a game and you can go get stuff. And to me, that youth sports should be fun because it gets really mentally tough. Not physically, so much physically tough, but mentally tough once we start to get into middle school age play, right? Because now we're starting to identify what we are as players. And so the pressure is different. If you're a really good player, you're going to need to go play for a really good team nowadays. And so let these kids, and I'm not saying that you have to, you know, have Capri Suns and juice boxes and
where are the orange slices, baby? Let's go.
So that's for when you got double headers and you're actually an adult and you need to give these kids sugars at 9:00 at night. So they can't go to sleep and their teeth rotten. But I'm pretty sure that's what was wrong with us when we were 8, 9, 10 years old playing ball. But I remember that. I can remember one year I was coaching a high school age group softball team, and we were going through a funk. I mean, we were just bad. And we were playing in tough competition, no big deal, but we just were not there physically, mentally, whatever. I literally went out. So I told my significant other, I said, I'm taking $100 out of the bank. And I said, we're going to go down there, and after each game, we're going to go down to the concession stand, and we're going to go and have a team thing, and I'm giving everybody $5. Everybody gets $5 to go pick what you want from the concession stand. And for some odd reason, we went into the playoffs without a win and won the tournament. And they just had a blast. It brought back a little bit of fun. And that's what 8, 9, even 10 should be. And you know, part of that fun's winning baseball games. And so don't put yourself in a classification to go out and get your butt kicked. Right.
Put yourself in a place where you compete. And, you know, it's funny. I couldn't help it, man. The whole time we're talking about this, I'm hearing, you know, I'm going to do this. Hang on. What are you doing out there? My gosh, man, get in front of the ball. We having fun yet?
Yeah, no.
And the kid's like, no.
Yep. My favorite's that meme of the two kids standing at second base, and the one kid is the opposing team standing on it with a helmet, and the other kid's a shortstop. And he's like, "Is that your dad yelling at you?" And he's like, "Yep, that's my, you know, whatever, you know, D1 Major League Baseball dad that is wearing, you know, khakis and a collared shirt in his Monarchs." And so it's always funny to me to see that. And, you know, your coach is already going to get on your kids. Let your coaches coach. And, you know, after the game, you know, take that car ride home and ask them what they thought. And if they got the IQ to explain it to you, then have that conversation. If they're not ready for that IQ yet on giving you the information, just let it be. Talk about how many times they swatted at dandelions or, you know, picked their nose or something. I don't know.
And I want people to understand this is from experience. I've been on that side of it. I've been on some ugly side. I know, I understand. I think we've all been guilty of these things at times. We can all look at this. How do we get better and how do we do these things? This is the questions that we ask and why we want to talk about this on Youth Baseball Midwest, YBMcast is, and when you're talking about this and we're talking about these 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old, if you will allow this process to happen and let the kids develop that way through this time frame, you're classifying them correctly, maybe they're not, through with playing when they get to high school. We've burned them out and let them have the fun, and then they get into that a little bit more competitive 12, 13, 14, where they're really starting to get the game, understand it, put themselves in those positions that are going to make an impact high school wise and how we do this and moving it through. This to me is the important part of it and how we're moving ourselves into that next phase. Where if we keep it in those first 3 years, we're identifying players, we're identifying classification, we're identifying how we grow and move up as a team. And then we can take and look at the classifications that these organizations are putting in there and going, this is where we fit. And then you can classify, and you're going to have a better opportunity to compete in those tournaments.
I do feel like as the large majority is there, and we're able to identify what our teams are. From my experiences of being around this game, just the last couple of years, but just being a student of sports, I feel like, to be honest with you, this whatever it means to anybody. But until these kids get hair on their legs and armpits and chest, the game is so fast, and it doesn't really slow down until we mature and we hit puberty. And when we do that, the game changes. And what we don't want to do is burn them out mentally prior to that. Because, everybody has a different age group that they may mature. Some kids are 12 years old and they're just lights out, but by the time they're 17, they've been traveling the world. They don't, which is great at the time, but they're typically done, and that's why there's such a small percentage of kids playing college baseball, is because at some point they just want to be a kid. And it's hard to be a kid at 19 years old. You're trying to go back 3 years and you can't do that anymore. You can't be a 16-year-old, trying to bounce off a trampoline and trying to do backflips or front flips into a pool dunking a basketball. Nobody wants that anymore. And so for me, it's like, let's try to find a way to keep this fun for these young men or these young kids, these young athletes. And then when that puberty kicks in, that's when we should start pushing. They can identify what we're saying a little better. They move a little bit differently. We can yell at them differently if we choose to, as coaches. I can't yell at a 9-year-old like I can a 14-year-old. I can't push a 9-year-old like I can a 14-year-old. So how do you push a 9-year-old? Go have more fun. There's ways that you can push an athlete, make them run more, and without being a punishment, and incorporate positive thinking into your frustrations. And that's what I've learned over the last few years, is how to create a negative situation into a positive situation in my own mind, so that I can have that for these athletes. And I can punish athletes without being negative. We just run bases. The kids think it's fun. Well, I'm like, I think it's fun because here's my conditioning that I'm upset because, they're farting around and kicking dandelions all over the place. But here I am making it up for me in my own mind. So I want these. I don't even want the classifications. I'll be honest with you. I could do without them. I could probably do without them at 10 years old. I don't know, in the directors of these organizations, of the tournament directors, probably know a lot better than I do. It could be a nightmare trying to do opens, and maybe that's why it doesn't happen. And I don't know that information. And so, that's a good question for Dave in November on this, when we have that question, that conversation. So for me, I'm like, make it all open and let them divide themselves in the tournaments. And if you have a team that's playing in most of your events and that they're a good team, try to put them in a pool play with like teams, and you can do that as directors. I mean, there's 8 to 10 teams in that age group that are competing every weekend, so I don't think it'd be terribly hard.
Well, I think it's interesting you put that there, and like I said, it's tough. Tournament directors, I don't know. That is a great question for Dave. I'd love to see how he answers that. And just because the conversation, because I remember we used to do a lot more open tournaments. Now, and I think it's just the way things have gone, the classifications. People come to the tournaments classified already. You're already classified. Nobody is coming and just going, hey, we're 9U. Where do you put me? Wherever, and this is sometimes even the tournament director, even if you can't go into a tournament without being classified. I think it is. So I think that's interesting. How do you overcome that and just start allowing that to be developed? But when you go down to Branson, you did that. Game 7, because of field space and things like that, the tournament is open. And you do have, depending upon the size of teams, you'll have the 2 bracket levels. That doesn't mean you're a bad team or this or that. And you end up, like you said, I'm looking at the wow factor here, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What did I just do? And the challenge then is, okay, how good am I? And it's defining a little bit. And at that age, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if we're doing that at the younger age levels and learning what those things are and setting those things in motion, I think it would do a lot more for the sport moving forward in classifying teams and being able to really look at classifications in a way that is meaningful. Instead of the coach going, man, we're AAA. At 10U, and you just started the team. You don't know that from practice. I'm sorry, you just don't.
You might not even know that through the fall, because, you have kids coming off summer ball that are probably in baseball mindset shape. So you might have a good fall. Heck, you might not even have your full roster in the fall. You might be borrowing kids from another team so that you can compete. So, that's pretty common in our area. So you don't know what you're getting into. And to be real honest with you, like in my mind, 12, 13, and 14 might be the only age groups I would really consider levels of play and classifications, if you will. When you get to high school, it's open, right? I mean, they're not going out there and saying, well, you're a single A team, you're not playing in my tournament. Now you might if it's an invite, right? Or something like that. But how many high school events are we going to with classifications, and you don't classify them as A, AA, AAA anymore? You're not doing that. It's thrown out the window. Maybe you might see that in some, again, like I said, but for the most part, everything I'm looking at registering wise, it's just a high school event. You're 15U, you're 16U, you're 17U. And so if you don't have it there, and you don't need it at the 8, 9, 10 years old, 11, 12, 13, 14 may be the only times we really do that, because, again, you're talking about growth. You're talking about maturity. You're talking about certain levels of kids starting to grow the game quicker than others. And so those kids need to join forces. Those kids need to play together. When those 11-year-old kids that are really good at 10 years old, they need to merge together and play. That doesn't work that way. I understand that. But,
I agree.
That's what but look at Cranwetter's team. He don't need a classification to identify what he is.
No, he's their
in my
team is
opinion,
good. Yeah,
they're really good. So Steve's Bandits team, they're classified as a AA team. They're going out and competing very well. He's a friend of mine, so that's why I pay attention to what he's got going on. He's a very good AA team, but is he ready for a AAA team? Well, if he went into an open tournament, he'd find out. And he would be able to identify what his group is.
And this is the point. See here, Cranwetter, he's at 11U, I believe now, right? I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's gonna, and I think here's the point. He's really, I mean, yeah, he's had a good team and he went and he's played. Okay, but now it really matters because now you want to look at, all right, if I'm going to hold this team together, all these kids and they're committed to this and they want to play at this level, that's the conversation with the parents. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to continue to develop. We are a major team. And I think Penning said that last time. He goes, that's truly a major team in this area. Okay, so they're going to have to go and play at a national level to find a similar scenario. Can they still play local? Absolutely. There's no reason not to play local, and he will. But
and what do they do though? What do they do? They play up.
Yes. Yeah, if they're playing local. They do it a lot.
They always play up. And when they go play a regional event, they play their age group. And what are they? They're not a national team just yet. Maybe they're just a regional group yet. And you're going all over the Midwest and competing in Kansas City and Chicago and SEMO and Springfield area. And they're going to Iowa and all these different little spots. And if they can compete there and they're winning there at their age group, then they need to, like you said, move on. And that unfortunately, that's what you have to do when you're that good. If you want to continue to grow your brand and your team, that team needs to be challenged.
And we have some teams like that at the 14U level. You got Ott's team over at Legacy. I think it's going to be 14U this year. He's got a good team. I think Wiggins 14U, I believe it is. I may be wrong. I have to look at that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I know that they were playing in the last couple of weekends, and I was paying attention to what Dave was posting, but not that detailed. I wasn't. Yeah. I just see the success that they're having. So,
right.
But you have a baseball guy, teaching a baseball team.
Yeah, and then you got the Tigers team with Chambers and those kids. Rollo's got a nice solid. That's a
14U team.
Yeah, those are teams that have really kind of proven they're at that AAA major level and, challenging yourself outside of the area, pushing yourself into that regional, national spotlight, seeing where you're competing. And those kids at a talent level that should be in that national side, but then still again, statistics tell us the majority, I forget it's 90% of the kids go to school within a 200-mile radius of their home. So as a coach, we're being classified. Where are we traveling and where are we looking and making these decisions? And this is why I think it's so impactful when we talk about 8, 9, 10U, being that place where don't worry so much about the classification. Play in whatever tournament it is. Let the kids determine the classification as you move to 11U baseball, and then set your pattern to moving. There's plenty of baseball in this area to play and plenty of teams to play against. Let the game be fun, let the game come, let it happen. And when you get to that 11U, is everybody like, yeah, we're good. Let's hey, we're a AA, we're a really good AA team. Let's really stay here and keep working towards that. And maybe as we hit 14U, we can be developed into that AAA major, and we can take a little more regional look at things. I would hope that we could start looking at those things and bring some of those settling factors in, and then allow the competition and then what the classifications have been set to define us in that respect.
Heck yeah. And if you think about that age group in general, and I'm sure there's more than this, but within about 4 hours of St. Louis, you have 6 major areas to play baseball in, with Kansas City, Columbia, St. Louis, Springfield, Cape, O'Fallon, Illinois. I'm sure there's some that are on those outliers up in Quincy. I know that there's been some things up there, and you go just a little bit further, we can get into Tennessee. So I mean, just in this area, we have three that are with an hour and a half or four: Columbia, O'Fallon, Illinois, St. Louis, and then Cape. So there is absolutely enough baseball to be challenged at your age group that you don't need classifications for them. I think what it is that we go out there and we want our kids to be classified as something because we want to identify that my kid is good. And the people who know who are paying attention know your kid is good without a classification, without a jersey, without anything representing the front of his uniform.
Yeah.
If your kid is that good, we will know your last name. We will know who you are. And even at 9 and 10 years old, you obviously have kids who are pretty good, and we're going to know who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why we know who Cranenwetter's team is because they're that team. We know that team is good. It doesn't matter what name they wear across the chest. It's Cranenwetter's team, right? Sorry for missing the name there. But again, it's just they're good.
Yes.
Right. You don't need a bunch of these team names. And I understand, and I'm not knocking organizations whatsoever. You have to understand I'm not doing that. We know who you are if you're good.
Yeah. And comment below, Lauren, click on that. Comment below. Put it up there. We want to hear what you have to say about these things and putting that in place to come to this conclusion about who and what you think about what we're talking about who and what we are as a construct within youth baseball. And I think the last point I want to make here, Mitch, is in this scenario as we talk about moving to high school ball. What high school are you going to? Is your team class 3? Is your high school class 3? Are you class 4? Are you class 5? Are you class 6? Have you taken the time to understand? And when you get to that 11, 12, 13-year-old age level, you're wanting to play, have you gone to a practice and watched what you're going to be competing against? Have you gone out and specifically within the GAC, even at the class 4 level, GAC, St. Charles West, Coach Allen's building a great program over there. He's got some talented kids. He's competing every year for district titles. Fort Zumwalt East, Class 5, just won the district title, went to the state. Fort Zumwalt South is really there. There's some changes in classifications coming up. And then, of course, the big dogs, as you are aware, the Class 6, that's just a crusher of a conference, the South Conference in Class 6 baseball. And it's that way throughout the state, whether you go west or southwest with Class 6 baseball. So what school are you going to? What's your high school? And are you setting yourself in motion if you're in a smaller school, Class 3, Class 4? Are you thinking there's an opportunity there with what you're doing? Are you competing at a high enough level to maybe get a roster spot as a freshman or a sophomore? Are you looking at that Class 6, 5, and 6 school that I'm going to be a junior before I hit that varsity squad because just am I talented enough, or am I that talented that I may have a shot at varsity as a sophomore? Very few freshmen get that. There's in a Class 6 school to play as a freshman, you're elite.
Yeah, and what's going from a 14U team to now a bunch of freshmen in high school, we actually had a couple of kids that started high school early, and they're at that low class. They're Class 2, whatever. That some schools only have varsity. So if you're any good whatsoever, you're going to have a shot to make the varsity roster, but you might be cut in the GACs.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting. So some people hang their hats on like, I'm a varsity athlete. No, bud, like I appreciate that you're able to play varsity level. Let's talk about how much playing time you're getting there. And if you only have 11 kids on that team, like come play us, come play the GACs. And I'm not saying you're not good enough to win. I'm not saying you don't have 9 guys to come down and beat us. I mean, Hannibal came down and beat Timberland. And so Hannibal's a small town. It had, 17 kids come down on their roster. Do I think they should have beat us? Absolutely not. But they did. So that there's talent there. But they have a couple different teams, right? They have a couple different levels. They're a 3A, I think, or something of that nature.
I think Hannibal's 5.
Oh, are they? So they're a little bigger than I thought. But, the draw in Moberly or Macon or Mark Twain or Callaway County, like they're just trying to get 11 guys to go to play baseball. Very different. And, so we have kids that are on the freshman team that are really nervous about playing in the GACs because we're smack in the middle of it, right? We're Timberland, or the Tribe Athletics is smack in the middle of all these GACs. So a large portion of my kids come from these top programs, high school programs. Pay attention to what you're doing. If you're a freshman, go to the freshman GAC camp. Go. You go to the youth camps in 7th and 8th grade. We already talked about it 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. Go to these camps, find out what you're dealing with, find out the freshmen that you're competing against, and find out what you need to work on. You're given information.
Yes.
Coaches are talking to you because they're teaching you. You can identify what that coach wants to be. And yes, I absolutely am on board understanding where you are going to play high school baseball. And don't have, as a parent, lead into my kid is this because he's a varsity player. I mean, we cut kids in premier programs. And I'm not talking about PBA. I mean like Gas House and Premier and Tigers and Tribe. And we've cut kids in these conferences, that are good teams.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yes. But it's just not good enough to make your high school team. And you know what? That's okay. What are you going to do to get better to make it next year?
And that's the point of it. And that's what I'm hoping. If we start teaching these kids that we earn these things, we start by this process of learning how to play the game, letting the competition define the teams and setting them in that place, teaching them how to compete, how to move, how to go. It's preparing for that high school level to learn how to compete. And I just sometimes don't know if we're doing that well enough. And so when we talk about the classifications, if we're in these younger age groups, you can, like I said, comment below. We'd love to hear what you have to say about it. That's some of our thoughts, and we're going to keep coming back to this conversation because I think it's worth having. And we're going to try and get some more. I want to get some of the perspective from some of the clubs, other clubs, and some of the directors that way, and their thoughts on these things moving forward. Because it's tough, because you look at some of these clubs, and I know it's a draw. You come to my team, or come over here, we're a AAA team. Well, that's fine. And what is it? But is that player really, there's only so many really, truly talented high-level players once you start getting that 13, 14 age group. That's where I think, and I know that's hard. That you can't say it. Yes, you can, because it's just true. There's only 0.04% of these players in the major leagues. And then there's not all of them playing.
The math is not on your side.
The math is not on. So learn what that is. Go and compete. And if you want to play, go play. Play at the highest level you can. Work, compete, do. Fantastic. Do it. Enjoy it. Play college baseball if you want to. There's plenty of college baseball out there, and you can play. You can find levels of baseball that your talent will compete at. It's there for you.
Absolutely.
Just let's keep it in the framework that moves us through the process in a better way. That's just what I hope we can do. So, Mitch, as always, man, thanks. Appreciate it. Enjoy the conversation.
I'll be in studio next week, so everybody, I get to high five you and shake your hand. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm close to wrapping up. I'm waiting on some magnets to come in, and I get to hang those, and then I'm done with the stuff up in the air. So I will be done with that facility, and I'll be in office soon.
Well, maybe we'll just come there and do the show.
Well, that'll save me on gas money, so I would take that all day.
Oh, mercy. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Remember, if you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. You can watch us all the time. Hit the dinger, because that's what we do around here. We hit dingers, right?
Dingers.
Dingers for days.
Dingers all day long.
And that'll get your notification.
I guess apparently, except for when the air is cold in St. Louis, you can't hit balls out of the park at 108 miles an hour. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. I think go to LA and get the early evening air, and it just dies in the outfield. That's why that park is bigger than it is. Yep. Anywho.
Yep. As always.
Where was I? Notifications. That's it. Get your notifications.
Leave it up to me to change the pace of the show. Close it down. Close her down.
All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and hitters,
Hit them where they ain't.
we'll see y'all next time.